Shadowbox TV here. On the heel of Terence Crawford's fight with Indongo recently, he's become the unified 140-pound champion. So he's the only fighter right now in boxing who holds all the four major titles, which is the WBA, the IBF, the WBC, and the WBO title. So based on that, obviously I saw a meme on the internet recently that shows you can actually see it on the graphic on the right hand side of the actual screen, the only three fighters in boxing in history to unify all four major world titles. So you have Terence Crawford at the top, who's obviously won it the most recently. Below him on the left, you have on the bottom left hand corner, you've got Jermaine Taylor, and on the right hand corner, bottom right hand corner, you got Bernard Hopkins. So I just want to make a video because I had this conversation online on my Facebook group, which I do have a link to down below in the comment section, of basically we had a conversation about, out of all these three fighters, who actually has the most legitimate claim, like out of all of the three fighters that you see on the screen today, or on the actual page right there, you can actually see Bernard Hopkins, Terence Crawford, and obviously Jermaine Taylor. Out of all them three fighters, which of them had the most impressive run when they did actually unify all four major world titles within their respective weight division? Now it must be said, obviously, in my perspective, I may be a little bit biased because Bernard Hopkins is one of my favorite fighters in the last 25 years. So obviously, excuse me. Obviously, I might give a bit of a biased perspective. So we just base it purely on facts. So obviously, in terms of like Terence Crawford at this moment in time, there doesn't seem to be any legitimate challenges available for him in terms of his weight division at the moment. He's literally cleaned out his entire weight division. When he beat Victor Postal, obviously when he beat Indongo recently, who did hold two major titles as well, it doesn't seem like there's anyone else left for him to fight. So fans are already clamoring for him to actually move up to one other weight division. So in terms of like the titles that he's won, it more than likely looks like he may be able to get a fight against Adrian Broner, which is a big money fight, or Mikey Garcia. Obviously the Adrian Broner fight is more of a marketable fight because the general consensus, the mainstream consensus, know more about Adrian Broner than they do know about Mikey Garcia, although Mikey Garcia did actually beat Adrian Broner. So that is one fight that could potentially happen if Mikey Garcia was to fight Terence Crawford. That could be one defense that he makes to the title, but it doesn't look likely that he's gonna actually defend that title, defend the four major titles that he's won recently. It doesn't look likely that he's going to defend them titles. So it's more than likely he's going to move up to welterweight, and he's going to fight the likes of Errol Spence, obviously Keith Thurman, who's won 2 world titles, and obviously Jeff Horn. So he's probably going to try to win a world title in welterweight, and I'm going to make a separate video talking about his chances of actually pulling that off. But in terms of I don't think it's likely that he's going to stick around this division for too long. I mean, it feels like he seems like a big fighter, so he seems like his body's actually growing out, and he's gonna actually move up to the welterweight division and try to seek supremacy there. So in terms of like the four major world titles he's won, he may defend the titles once or twice, but it just doesn't seem likely that he's gonna like make a huge run of the titles in terms of defending the titles 20-30 times. So he may just move up to the welterweight division. And it must be said, right, Bernard Hopkins, when he first won his IBF title, obviously he did fight Roy Jones before that, and he did lose to Roy Jones when Roy Jones won his first world title. But when he won the IBF title, I believe he did make 20 defenses of the middleweight titles that he did win. Obviously the only 3 fighters in the boxing history to unify all major world titles, it must be said, all 3 of them are American. So that is one thing that can be said. But in terms of Golovkin, he seems like the next fighter that may unify the titles if he does beat Canelo, and he decides to fight Billy Joe Saunders, and he picks up the WBO strap. And obviously Billy Joe Saunders is fighting who is he fighting? Willie Monroe Jr. On his next fight. So it may be that Golovkin, obviously if he keeps making defenses of his titles, he may overcome Bernard Hopkins' 20 defense title reign record and actually break that record. But it seems very unlikely that in terms of these three fighters, oh yeah, another fighter that I didn't mention is Jermaine Taylor. Jermaine Taylor did actually unify the titles again by beating Bernard Hopkins, but it must be said, he literally lost the titles to Kelly Pavlik 1 or 2 fights later. So out of all these three fighters that you see on the screen right now, in my perspective, Bernard Hopkins is the most impressive out of all the three fighters that has actually won the major titles. Because of the fact that he did make 20 defenses of the title, and it must be said, he beat he held the titles for a long period of time, and it must be said, after he won the titles, he vacated it after he lost to Jermaine Taylor. He vacated that certain division, and then he moved up to light heavyweight, and then he built his supremacy there by beating fighters like obviously he fought Joe Calzaghe. He didn't beat him, but he beat fighters like Jean Pascal and became the oldest fighter to win a world title. So in my perspective, out of all the three fighters that you see right there on that graphic, Bernard Hopkins has accomplished the most. Obviously, Jermaine Taylor, he didn't defend his titles that many times. He did defend it once or twice, but he didn't come nowhere near to defending it to the 20 times that Bernard Hopkins did. And Terence Crawford, it doesn't seem likely that, I may be wrong, but it doesn't seem likely that he's going to stay in the division that he's at currently. It seems likely that he is going to move up to the welterweight division and find more challenges there, because he's completely wiped out all legitimate threats in the 140 division. So that's my thoughts on the matter. Out of all these three fighters, who is the most impressive fighter to have actually unified all 4 major world titles out of the fighters that you see on the screen right there? So that is what that is. If you can, just subscribe to my YouTube channel. I've got more content coming my way, and on the link below there is links to my Facebook group that you can join for more boxing debate, and obviously like the Facebook page as well, so that we can see you can see more content like this coming your way. So that's my video. That's all I gotta say. Peace out.